it's Tamika, a new me 1109, and I wanted to just share some information today. So today I spent a little time reading this book called Superfoods, HealthStyle, Simple Changes to Get the Most Out of Life for the Rest of Your Life. And it's actually by Stephen Pratt and Kathy Matthews, the people who wrote the first book, which is a best-selling book called Superfoods RX. So today I just really wanted to go through, and the book is sort of sectioned out, and it talks about some new superfoods for the different seasons. So of course we're in spring, and so I read a little bit about spring. So wanted to share. Um, so it starts out talking about spring and the fact that spring is a season of joy. Lots of things blooming, better weather than winter, and all of that. So one of the exercises, because in here they talk about superfoods and they also talk about exercise suggestions. And the exercise that they suggest for spring, which most people can start off if they're just starting to exercise, is walking. And they actually suggested a website. Shape Up America is www.shapeup.org. And I took a look at that website, and there's lots of just information, material, and stuff like that in there. So, they go through some different tips on how to get walking. And one of the things that they talk about is setting a goal. And the goal should be what most of our surgeons recommend is 30 minutes of brisk walking a day. Journaling, how much you're walking, on a set path, switching it up so you don't get bored, meeting a walking buddy, things like that. So, talked about walking. And Jen, Inspire, I know at some point you were asking about how many steps is recommended a day for walking, and we, quite a few people chimed in and said 10,000. One interesting tip that I read in here is that walking 10,000 steps a day is approximately equivalent to walking 4 to 5 miles a day. So I thought, wow, 4 to 5 miles a day if we get to those 10,000 steps. So people have pedometers, you get to 10,000 steps a day, just think you've walked 4 to 5 miles, because it's dependent upon your stride and stuff like that. So let's see, the first superfood that they have in here is kiwi. And it will give you the source of what vitamins you get from that particular superfood. So an example of kiwi is that it's a good source of vitamin C, folate, vitamin E, potassium, fiber, and on and on and on. And then it also tells you some of the sidekicks, so some foods that can sort of be eaten in replace of that superfood. And so some sidekicks for kiwi are pineapple and guava. And then the recommendation on how much to eat is multiple times a week. So you go through, and it gives you the specifics as to why this is a superfood, why it's good for your body. And then I like the part that tells you how you can actually use this superfood in your kitchen. Because sometimes it's like, okay, we're told eat these particular things, and then we're sort of like, how? What are some ideas of how I can eat this? So for kiwi, they give some suggestions. Tossing diced kiwi in a green salad, pureeing it in smoothies, chunking it up in turkey and tuna salad, which I thought was interesting, blending it with cantaloupe or other melons, adding it to yogurt for a creamy chilled soup. That probably would be nice. And making a relish out of chopped kiwi, red onions, pineapple, and oranges, and serving that on grilled meat and fish. Something else that's interesting. Let me go ahead and go on to the next superfood, which is spinach. And it's a good source of multiple nutrients. All of them are listed right here. I'm not going to go into them, but lots of vitamin C, E, B's, things like that, beta carotene, coenzyme Q10, which I'm trying to focus on how to figure out how to get a lot of that in my diet. And some sidekicks for spinach is kale, collard, Swiss chard, arugula, mustard greens, turnip greens, bok choy, romaine lettuce, orange bell pepper, which I thought was strange, but he explained that in here. And they're recommending that we try to eat at least 1 cup of steamed or 2 cups of raw on most days. And, have weight loss surgery, of course, we can't always eat 2 cups of raw at one time, but if we can spread it out throughout the day and pick different sources of the sidekicks, and try to get it in, then we're in good shape. So of course, it also talked about how we can use it in the kitchen. And so here's some suggestions. We can cook it hot, steamed as a good side dish. You can, after you steam it, eat it cold. You can eat it raw as a salad. You can exchange lettuce on sandwiches with spinach. You can add it to soups and casseroles. You can dress it up with a sprinkle of toasted sesame oil and pine nuts. And then they did give one recipe of braised spinach with roasted cherry tomatoes. So just imagine roasting some cherry tomatoes in the oven with some olive oil and then braising some spinach and bringing it all together for a dish with a little olive oil. Sounds pretty good for a side dish. And they also talked about the crispy kale. Now, Cabernet Queen Sally actually showed us a recipe of some crispy kale. I think it was called kale chips. So I'll go ahead and put a link to that video. I still am not quite courageous enough to try that yet, but it looks really good. So that's a good source and a good superfood. The next superfood for spring that they talked about was soy. And, you know, soy is good for vitamin E, B's, iron, potassium, folate, magnesium, on and on and on. Some sidekicks are different forms of soy, are tofu, soy milk, telephone, tofu, soy milk, soy yogurt, soy nuts, edamame, tempeh, and miso. And they recommend that we try to eat at least 10 to 15 grams of soy protein daily. Ideas on how you can incorporate soy into your diet. Use soy milk instead of cow milk. Sprinkle soybean sprouts on salads. Tuck them in sandwiches. Add soybeans to soups and casserole. Keep some soy flour on hand to put in pancakes, cakes, and baking goods. And add puree, silken tofu to dressing and dips. So now here's a recipe that they put in here. It's called creamy cilantro dressing. So listen to this. I thought this was kind of good. 2 cups of cilantro leaves, 1 teaspoon of minced fresh garlic, an 1/8 cup of water, 1 package of 10.5 ounce silken tofu, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, a tablespoon of reduced sodium soy sauce. Throw it all in a food processor, blender, blend it all up, put it in the fridge for 2 hours, and then add it to your salads. Doesn't that sound good? When I'm at the farmer's market, I always grab cilantro, and I just use it for like salsa or to like garnish soups and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll throw it in like a Mexican flavored soup, but this is a great way that I can use it on something else. Another spring superfood is honey. And it talked about trying to use 1 to 2 teaspoons of honey multiple times a week. How we can use honey in the kitchen. Of course, you can add a tablespoon to smoothies and shakes. Have like sliced apple with a drizzle of honey. You can put it on your yogurts. You can make your own honey mustard dressings or sauces for your food. Just Dijon mustard and honey. Mix it up. Don't have to buy it. Add a little extra virgin olive oil. You'd be all set. Add it to your tea in the morning. And so, moving on to the next superfood. You can figure out what to do with honey. The next superfood is fiber and making sure that we get enough fiber in. And they give some examples of ways that we can get fiber in, like black beans, pinto beans, garbanzo beans, lentils. I love lentils. Frozen green peas, raspberries. Did you know that 1 cup of raw raspberry was equivalent to 8 grams of fiber? The next superfood is tea. And tea is very good for us. It's no calories. They recommend trying to get 1 to 4 cups in daily or more if you can. It lowers blood pressure, skin cancers, decrease sun-induced aging of skin, helps prevent cataracts. And one thing that is said in here that I thought was interesting, and this is the last one. Okay, so some ways that you can use it in the kitchen, right? So you can brew green tea with a few slices of fresh peeled, that scared me. So you can brew green tea with a few slices of fresh peeled ginger or lemon, And you know what it said about green tea? To cut down on the bitterness, brew green tea room temperature for about 30 minutes. And that cuts down on the bitterness. And I noticed that green tea sometimes is bitter.